Our life is what our thoughts make it. It can be tempting to understand our own lives as a series of fixed events that happen to us that can only be interpreted in one way. Maybe we walk around with a sense that we'll never be able to be successful because of circumstances that occurred in our childhood, or we expect that we are fated to some kind of unfulfilling life for one reason or another. One of the most effective changes you can make in your attitude toward yourself and your life is to realize that if you expect that you're going to fail, you probably will. If you expect that your life will be ruled by past trauma, then it likely will be. By viewing your own life in a negative light, you are in effect creating the reality where your experience will be quite disappointing. What this means, though, is that it actually might be possible to change yourself for the better and correct the course of your life by simply changing your thoughts. To be clear, this isn't a prescription to simply repeat affirmations about becoming rich and then waiting around to win the lottery without even buying a ticket. If the idea that your thoughts create your reality seems a bit far-fetched to you, consider just entertaining the idea in your own mind for a while. What if you expected that you would live a good life and you will achieve the goals you desire? What if that expectation actually facilitated your dreams coming true? When you think about it, there is hardly much harm in trying this approach to life on for size. The next time you get upset by a life circumstance, no matter how small or large, try to zoom out and consider other ways that you could think about the situation that leaves you experiencing less pain and discomfort. You never know, it might just be crazy enough to work and fundamentally change your life for the better. At day's first light, have in readiness against disinclination to leave your bed the thought that, "I am rising for the work of man." Even Roman emperors don't always feel like getting out of bed in the morning. To help counteract the temptation to hit the snooze button and drift back off into the dream world, Aurelius suggests that you immediately remind yourself of the fact that you are doing the work you were destined to do. He goes on to ask if lying under the blankets and keeping myself warm is really the purpose of my creation. If you struggle to face the day, try to remind yourself right away of your greater purposes and the part you play in the story of existence. In Aurelius's view, it's nature's bidding that you do your share of the work to do your part towards a coherent world order. Do not waste what remains of your life in speculating about your neighbors unless with a view to some mutual benefit. To wonder what so-and-so is doing and why, or what he is saying or thinking or scheming, in a word, anything that distracts you from fidelity to the ruler within you, means a loss of opportunity for some other tasks. It's easy to focus more on what's going on with the people around you than it is with yourself. While it's all too human to get caught up in the drama of what other people are up to and what they might think of you, Aurelius rightfully argues that this represents a major opportunity cost in one's life. If you find yourself spending a lot of time focusing on other people, whether through judgment or admiration, consider stepping back and centering in yourself. What do you really want to do with your life? How do you really want to spend your time? There's a good chance that the answer isn't gossiping, judging, or fixating on others. Likely, you have goals and dreams that you want to accomplish that can only be reached through your own deliberate action. If you catch yourself getting caught up in the whirlwind of other people, their problems and their opinions, remind yourself that you are choosing to spend your precious finite time in a way that most likely doesn't benefit you in any way. Live a good life. If there are gods, and they are just, then they will not care how devout you have been, but will welcome you based on the virtues you have lived by. If there are gods, but unjust, then you should not want to worship them. If there are no gods, then you will be gone, but will have lived a noble life that will live on in the memories of your loved ones. In just a few sentences, Marcus Aurelius offers a pretty bomb-proof way to justify living a virtuous life. He breaks down the potentials of metaphysical reality as having only three possibilities. There are gods, and they are just. There are gods, and they are unjust. And there are no gods. Whatever happens after you die, whatever the true meaning of life is, Aurelius argues that living a good life is the answer no matter what. While there is something unquestionably attractive about being in a position of power, Aurelius warns that obtaining control over others can be more of a curse than a blessing. In this quote, the philosopher argues that the ego trip of power can take you away from the true work of man. If you find yourself desiring to be in a position of leadership over others, ask yourself whether you can honestly maintain the humility he describes above. That which isn't good for the hive isn't good for the bee. Being a leader shouldn't be about personal profit or fame. No matter what you do, no matter who you are, you can't escape the reality that you are just as human as those that you are leading. If something isn't good for the people that trust in your guidance, it won't be good for you either, even if it takes some time for the feedback loop to complete itself. No matter what anyone says or does, my task is to be good. When you're in a position of leadership, other people will gravitate towards you for reasons both good and bad. Don't let the influence of others convince you that you no longer have to remain principled and committed to living a good life, even if you are seated at the very top of a hierarchy. The goal of any great leader should be to stay steady of the path of good and rightful action, no matter how much power they yield over others. Let men see, let them know a real man who lives as he was meant to live. It's pretty difficult to imagine a political leader in this day and age that feels this way. So much of the political arena these days is just a big marketing campaign, and the image of those in the public eye is carefully curated. Whether you're a parent, a manager, a CEO, or the president of a small nation, there is infinite wisdom in the advice to allow people to really know who you are and lead by example. After all, when you've worked to make changes for the better in who you are, how did they come about? Did they come about because someone preached to you who you should be, or because you witnessed someone living in a way that you felt compelled to emulate? Leading by example is a much more effective way to create positive change in the world around you, rather than proselytizing about how you think everyone else should be. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Believe it or not, obstacles can actually be the thing that propels you forward in your career, your relationships, and your life. Rather than getting shut down by all the stuff that pops up to block your path, learn to understand impediments as essential tools for achieving your goals. While this might seem contradictory, you've likely experienced this phenomenon in your own life. If you've ever overcome an obstacle to reach a goal, you know that the struggle in climbing over that wall taught you priceless lessons that helped you become the person you are now and further refine what it is that you want to achieve in life. It's easy to think about life as a series of fixed happenings. You graduate from high school, you go to college, you begin a career, you get married and start a family. While there's nothing wrong with having a map of your future, it's important to understand that you're going to encounter things along the way that might just fundamentally change the direction you're heading in. As the simplest of examples, let's say that you are taking a run on some nature trails near your house. During a storm the previous night, however, the path you always take has become problematically flooded. What do? Do you turn around? Do you try to bushwhack through the woods around the path? Or do you change your route on the fly and explore a part of the woods you've never been to before? If you choose either option 2 or 3, the impediment to your action advanced your action. You likely experienced a new and rejuvenating headspace too, either navigating through the woods without a trail or running down a path you'd never considered exploring before. The cycles of change in life and in the cosmos were a major focus for Marcus Aurelius in his writings. If you can alter the way that you understand the nature of change and the role that it plays in creating reality, you might just feel in yourself a profoundly positive change. Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight. It's easy to get comfortable in life and be resistant to any change that comes our way. It can be particularly difficult to deal with the change that accompanies loss. As always, Aurelius offers a more zoomed-out perspective that can help to alter the way you look at the losses you've experienced in life. If you can tap into the reality that change is a beautiful product of nature and the fact that loss is only the experience of change, you can find peace and acceptance in even the most heartbreaking of life occurrences. Observe constantly that all things take place by change. As humans, we tend to be a bit discriminatory when it comes to change. If something happens to us that changes our life for the better, we don't necessarily think of it as a big change, but rather the result of our good luck, our hard work, or both. When things seemingly change for the worse, though, we are devastated by the alteration to our experience. One of the major themes of Aurelius's writing echoes the famous quote of the ancient Greek philosopher Heraclitus of Ephesus. The only constant in life is change. If we can learn to embrace change and avoid labeling it as either good or bad, we can benefit from the delightful energy of nature. If someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change, for I seek the truth by which no one was ever truly harmed. It is the person who continues in his self-deception and ignorance who is harmed. It's easy for us to get attached to certain ideas or ways of being. Indeed, if we're honest with ourselves, we've all likely had an experience where someone pushes back on our actions or way of thinking, and our immediate reaction is to be defensive. Not only does Aurelius promote the idea that one should accept and welcome change from outside of oneself, but he also argues that one should be willing to make changes within oneself. Rather than clinging to our egos and our sense of identity, what if we were guided by the search for truth and the desire to live a virtuous and good life? If you can see yourself as a being that is ever evolving rather than a fixed entity, it's possible to embrace constructive criticism in a way that improves your life and helps you live well. Aurelius understands death as just another iteration of change in life and the universe. In his thinking, death does not need to be something that you fear, but rather something that motivates you to live the best life. This is the case no matter what you believe happens when we die, whether we are annihilated or our spirits continue on in another form. About death, whether it is a dispersion or a resolution into atoms or annihilation, it is either extinction or change. In this quote, Marcus Aurelius offers an antidote to the fear of death. He posits that there are only two possibilities when it comes to what happens after we die. We can either cease to be, or we can change into another state. As discussed previously, Aurelius is a wholehearted proponent of accepting and even welcoming change. From this view, neither of the potential outcomes of the end of our earthly life are worth fearing. Let each thing you would do, say, or intend be like that of a dying person. It's easy to get caught up in the emotions and dramas of everyday life. However, when a person knows that they will soon die, it seems that there is often a major shift in perspective. One exercise that is helpful for embracing this quote is picturing yourself on your deathbed many decades from now. While this might sound morbid, it can help you determine what your priorities are and what really matters to you. As you picture yourself near to death, what do you want to look back on your life and have accomplished? Who do you want to have been, and who do you want to have spent your life with? Asking these questions from the perspective of only having life behind you rather than also ahead of you can help you ground to the actions you need to take to be the person you want to be. It is not death that a man should fear, but rather he should fear never beginning to live. You can certainly live your whole life trying to avoid taking risks so that you'll live as long as possible. But what will you sacrifice along the way? There's a good chance you've encountered individuals who have taken this exact approach to life. The fear of death can leave you to settle into mundanity in a way that doesn't even really feel like living at all. Rather than focusing so much on the fact that you will one day die, consider shifting your attention to how you can live your best life today, even if that means leaping into the great unknown. Subscribe for more videos. Thank you.